Welcome to Google Sheets for HR. You're learning with Mo Jones, IT professional and educator. In today's course, we'll take a look at how we can use Google Sheets to analyze and work with HR-based data. We do have two modules for this course. In Module 1, we'll start off with just some text functions that we can use to clean up or organize our data. We'll also be able to write some formulas along the way to calculate just some HR-related type of information. We'll take a look at some common database functions that's used to query a set of data. We'll actually create a nice dashboard that we can use to just input the value, and Google Sheets will search the database for us and return the values that we're looking for. And then we'll also want to tell a story about our data, so we'll go ahead and create a few chart visuals as well. So hopefully you're excited about this course. Go ahead and click on the link for the Module 1 file and come right back and we will dive right in. Let's get ready to work on our practice file. So once you click on the link, you should see Sheets for HR Module 1. Now you cannot edit this file, so you'll need to make a copy for yourself. So please click on the File tab and go ahead and click on Make a Copy. This way, this will make a separate copy that will save on your Google Drive, and you'll be able to edit the actual file. Let's take a quick look at the different worksheet tabs that we'll be working on. The very first worksheet tab is Text Functions. So here we're going to use the Split Text to Columns feature. We'll use Smart Fill to recognize a pattern, and we'll also use the Today function so that we can always have the current date as we're analyzing our data. On the Formulas tab, we'll make two calculations. We'll calculate the gross pay based on the pay rate in the hours. We'll also calculate the amount of days time off remaining from the pool of 20 days here. And then we'll spend some time on the Functions worksheet tab here. We'll take a look at some useful database functions like Countif, Sumif, and Averageif. We'll also take a look at Xlookup to see how we can enter an employee number and return the corresponding name, location, gross pay, and remaining time off based on a second data set. We'll finish up by creating charts, chart visual to tell a story based on the employee performance by department and quarter. Also get a nice little trend analysis in here to see how we're trending from one quarter to the next. Are we trending upwards or are we trending downwards in terms of employee performance? So go ahead and open up this file, make a copy for yourself, and come right back. We'll dive right into the first worksheet tab. So taking a look at our roadmap here, here's part 1. We'll take a look at using text functions for cleaning up data. Now I'll go ahead and make a copy of this myself. It's pretty simple to do. I'll go ahead and click on Make a Copy. And here's my copy of the file. I'll make sure to close the original one. So I'll go ahead and close that one here. So here is my actual file. Okay, so in this case, we have the entire name in one column. Now, we could have written the name with the last name at the front here, and that way we can sort by last name, but we don't really have that right now. So one thing that we can do is we can split the name into different columns. So it works a little differently than in Excel. So what I'm actually going to do is if I click on Edwin Johnson here and click on the data, here's the Split Text to Columns command. It's going to overwrite the current cell. So this is going to become the first name, and column C will become the last name. So I actually don't need this column here. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. And this one will become the first name column, and this will become the last name column. All right, so I'll go ahead and click on Edwin Johnson, and I'll click on the Data tab here, and I'll use the Split Text to Columns. We don't really get a dialog box. It's just asking us, what is the separator? So typically when you are splitting text from one column to the next or multiple, it depends on if you have a space in that column or if you have a comma. Commas are very typical, but But in this case, we have a space in between each name. So what it's going to do is going to insert a column in between Doug and McGrath and between Carl and Howard. So I'll click on space here, and you can see it mission accomplished. So it actually extracted the name. So now we have Edwin in column B, and it extracted the last name, which is Johnson, in column C. Okay, well, that worked out well. Well, let's see if we can actually select the remaining names here. I'm going to click on this cell, and I'll press Control Shift down to select all of the names here. I don't feel like scrolling. Let's see if we can extract all of these names into 2 columns. So with all the names selected, I'll click on the Data tab again, and I'll click on Split Text to Columns. Now it's down here, so I'll go ahead and click on the drop down here, and I'll choose the space. Let's see what happens. And there you go. So pretty nice. So it works well. Mission accomplished. Again, the only thing is it overwrites the actual column. We don't really get a dialog that asks us where we want to extract the actual names. So it is necessary to rename these here as well. So we're good to go. So now we have a first name column, and we have a last name column. So that is text to columns. Now, as far as the location, we want to improve the data set. It would be nice if we can kind of separate this by city and by state. In this case, we just want to be able to extract the state. So one thing I can do is I can go ahead and type the state in here. So I can type NM, and then I can keep on doing it. But there's a tool that's called Smart Fill. So let's see if I start typing Texas in here and press enter. So it's not really working. So this is kind of Google Sheets equivalent of Flash Fill. I'll go ahead and type the other one here. So for Idaho, and there you go. So for the third example, it found the pattern. And in this case, the pattern is just to extract the state, or in just Google Sheets speak, anything to the right of the comma and the space is going to extract it here as well. So it's actually using a formula to do this. If I click on Show Formula, here's the formula here. So it's using the right function, which extracts text from the right side. So it's extracting the last 2 characters of that particular cell. Either way, it worked. So I'm just going to press the check mark here to accept the suggestion. And we're good to go. So now we've extracted all the states. So mission accomplished. We have the first and last name in 2 different columns. We've extracted the state, and we're good to go. Go ahead and use text to columns. Go ahead and run Smart Fill. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the today function and calculate the length of service as well. Now back to our roadmap here. Let's go ahead and write some formulas. I'll go back to my sheet. And in this case, we want to go ahead and calculate the length of service. So this is going to be a combination. Now, to calculate the length of service, we need the hire date. So we have the hire date here in column F. And what we need to do is we need to find out, well, how many days has passed since the hire date and the current date. Now we can perform math on dates because dates are stored as actual numbers in Sheets. So I need to enter the current date in here. So I could just type the date in here if I want to. So I could just put a date in there. And now what I can do is I can say, well, what is the current date minus the hire date? And this gives me the number of days in there, which is 1,608. So I can press enter, and it gives me 1,608. But that's not really what I want. I want something that makes a little more sense. If I can convert these into years, then I will be good to go. So what I'm going to do is divide this. So this number, I want to divide this by 365. And that will give me my years. So I need to separate this though, because I need to put the actual calculation in parentheses. So I'll go ahead and put this in parentheses. And now we can see we have a 4 in here. I'm using the parentheses because Sheets is going to use the basic math order here. So parentheses is first, and then exponent and multiplication and so forth and so on. So this is a calculation within a calculation. I'll go ahead and press the enter key. And so it gives us 4. Let's see if there's a decimal in there. So I'll go ahead and increase the decimal spaces. And there you go. So we have 4.4. So we're good to go. But this is not really correct. What if it's later in the year? What if it's actually, June? Well, we have to keep on typing the date in here manually. So instead of typing the date manually, we're going to use the today function, and this will always make sure that this cell has the current date. It's a simple function. It's just the today function, no arguments, and it's going to look up the current date for us. So I'm going to click on this cell and press the delete key. As expected, we're getting a weird number in here. So for the current date, I'll type equal. Here's the today function. I can press the tab key to accept it. And we can see it's already putting in the current date. I'll go ahead and close the parentheses and press enter. And there you go. So this way we always have the current date. If we come back tomorrow, it's April 29th. It's going to automatically recalculate column G for us. All right. Well, let's see. If I kind of wrote this the first time, it would have used the smart fill. We kind of saw it offering that to us the first time. It's not showing up now. That's okay. What I can do, just like in Excel, I can grab the fill handle right here, and I can automatically fill down this formula. The only thing is I need to make sure to lock on to this cell. Let's see what happens if I copy this formula down just a little bit. I'll go ahead and drag it down here. We can see that does not look right. So what is happening here? Or am I getting some negative values from the current date? Let's see, I'll go ahead and double click on the second one here. And you can see it's locking on to the incorrect cell. So I need to tell Sheets to lock on to the current date. So what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to name this actual cell. So I could use absolute referencing, which is the typical way to fix this issue here. So absolute referencing is putting the $ in front of the column and the row, and that will lock on to cell L2. So if I come up here and I put the $ before the L and before the 2, and I press enter. Now if I copy this down, we can see we're getting some actual numbers in here that actually make sense. If I double click on cell G3, you can see it's still locking on to the current date in L2. If I come down here a little further, we can see it's still locking on to it. So we can either name the cell. In this case, I'm just using absolute reference. We can see that here, the $ before the L and the $ before the 2. So mission accomplished. We'll use the naming of the cells a little later on. I'm going to go ahead and autofill down. And there we go. So now we now have the length of service for all of our employees here. So we are good to go. So this worksheet is complete. We're able to use text to columns, smart fill, use the today function, and kind of enter a calculation and troubleshoot that calculation as well. Go ahead and calculate the length of service by using the today function and absolute referencing cell L2 that has the current date. Let's head on over to the second worksheet tab here, which is formulas. And we're going to write 2 formulas in here. So we do have some data that we can calculate to augment this data set here. So we currently have the pay rate and the hours as well. So we can use these two columns to calculate the gross pay. We also have the amount of time off or days used for each employee. So we're recording the days allotted, and we can use a simple calculation to calculate the remaining days as well. So this way, everything will just be kind of automated. We don't have to come in here and actually start plugging numbers in. Let's calculate the gross pay. So the calculation here is we're going to multiply the pay rate times the hours, and we'll just make sure that we have the correct currency or accounting format here in column G. So I'll go ahead and you can either type the formula in the formula bar here, or you can go ahead and just click right here in the cell and type it. I'll use the formula bar. So equal starts the calculation, and I have two options. I can type the name of the cell. So the pay rate is in cell E2. You can see it's kind of highlighting it for us. You can see it's already showing the value that's in there. And that's one of the features I really like about Google Sheets. And I can type the asterisk and multiply that by F2. So I can either type F2 or I can click on the cell. I prefer to click on it because sometimes I overshoot it. And we can see it's already giving us the answer. So here's the gross pay here for Edwin Johnson. Part-time, 25 hours per pay period, 26.58 yields this amount here. I'll go ahead and press the enter key. And there's the calculation. Now we're getting the suggested autofill, which is a really nice feature. So it looks good. Typically it does what it's supposed to do. If you want more confidence, you can click on show formula. And you can see it's just multiplying the corresponding pay rate times the hours based on the actual row. So for row 3, it's going to be E3 times F3 and so forth and so on. But let's get a little bit of practice. I'll go ahead and reject the suggestion here. I'll do that one more time. So I'll go ahead and click on the formula bar, equal. This time I'll just click on the cell, the pay rate from row 3, multiply that by the hours, and we get our answer here. Now I can just go ahead and fill down my formula. Let's see if I can double click on this fill handle here. Yep, and there we go. So I can double click, and instead of pulling it down manually, it fills out all the other formulas for me. Well, I'll double click on this last cell. Let's see what the formula is. So you can see the formula copies, it's relative to the row. So we can see the rows are changing. The columns are staying fixed, but we're going from row 50 all the way down to row 2 all the way down to row 52. So we are good to go. So that's our first calculation. Let's go ahead and calculate the days remaining. So the days remaining, we're going to subtract the days allotted and the days used. So for this one, again, you can type the formula in the cell. It's giving us a recommended calculation here, which is pretty useful, but in this case, it's not really helping. What I want to do is subtract the days allotted and the days used. So this should give us 12. We can see it does that here. I'll go ahead and press the enter key. And let's see. The autofill here, it's not really giving us the value that I'm looking for. This should be 2, and this should be 16. So let's see what's happening here. All right. So again, the issue we're having is it's moving away from cell K2. So again, we need to lock on to cell K2. So I'm going to press the escape key, or I'll reject those suggestions. I'm going to delete this calculation here. And I'll show you a quick trick. I'll go ahead and click here on cell K2. And right here in the name box, I'm just going to type days allotted, all one word. So days allotted and press the Enter key. So now, just by naming that cell, what I'm doing is if I use that name in a calculation, Google Sheets is going to lock on to that cell K2. For example, if I say what is equal to days, notice days allotted now is showing up. If I press the Tab key and press Enter, it tells me that it's 20. If I change this to 25, we can see that changes to 25. So I'm going to name the cell. It's already named as days allotted. So now for my calculation, I'm going to say equal days allotted minus days used for Edwin Johnson. Right? Same answer. As expected, we get 12. And now I'll go ahead and autofill down. Let's see if this works. And we can see it's working. Right? It's still locking on to cell K2, which is our days allotted. So that's just a quick introduction to how we can name a range or a cell. In this case, a cell. We can see the benefit of doing it that way. So typically when you have a value that's kind of away from your list, so here's our list, and we can see that this value over here is kind of away from our list. So typically when that happens, you want to lock that particular cell, or you can use absolute referencing. I prefer to just lock the cell by naming it. So we're good to go. In part 3, we'll take a look at some database functions. We have used one function so far, the today function, and we have written a few calculations. Let's head back over to our sheet, and we're on the functions worksheet tab here. And these are common database functions. So in this case, we have a data set over here on the left. So these are we're tracking the professional development that's being offered here. So for example, here is Brandy Turner, completed the leadership program, and Brandy Turner is from the accounting department. Here's the cost for that particular program. Now, Brandy may have completed more than one program, so we want to just kind of create a nice dashboard over here. And this dashboard will serve the purpose of inputting values. So we need to program the dashboard so that as we enter an employee, we can learn how many programs for example, has Candace taken? What were the total costs for all of the programs that Omar Matthews took? We can also get a breakdown for department. So what were the total costs in professional development programs for OIT, or Office of Information Technology, and also the average as well. So on average, what were the average costs per course for the leadership program? We could change these values later, but the main thing to do is to go ahead and set up these functions first, and then we can play around. We can change the values here in column G and get a real-time update here as well. Let's take a look at our first function, which is the Countif function. So the Countif function is going to ask us two things. It's going to ask us what range to search and what is the criteria, right? So what are we looking for in that particular range? So just those two things. The function will will do the work for us. So we have Candace Kimball in here. I'm going to enter the Countif function. So I'll click on cell H2, and here is the Countif. So the Countif, it says it's a conditional count across a range. I'll go ahead and click here. Now, when you're writing functions in Google Sheets, you'll see a small drop down here, just kind of asking us. So again, it's asking us for the range and the criterion. For more examples, you can expand or you can press F1. And here's an example. Right? Different examples in here that you can use. So the range is the range that is tested against the criterion. And the criterion is the pattern or test to apply to a range. So in this case, we just want to highlight the actual range. So again, we want to highlight the employee range. So we want to search the employee column. So from C2 down to, let's see, C51, that's the range to search. Now the second part here, if I enter the comma, the second part is the criteria, right? So what are we looking for? So I can type Candace Kimball in here. Typically you would just type the name in here. So if I type Candace Kimball, we can see it's already found 2. So it's saying Candace Kimball's name can be found 2 times in this column. So I could do that, but if I want to look up another employee's name later on, I have to come back into the formula and erase Candace Kimball and type something again. So instead of doing that, I'm going to use it the dashboard way. I'll click on cell G2, and this is the input. So whatever's in cell G2 is going to substitute it. So right now we're searching column C for Candace Kimball. I'll go ahead and press the enter key. And there we go. We can see Candace Kimball has been found 2 times on this data set. And let's see if I can, so here's 1 on row 8. Here's Candace Kimball. And if I try and find the other one, you can see it's a little difficult to do because you're kind of scrolling. So that's what the Countif function does for us. Here's the second one on row 22. So instead of scrolling through and counting manually, we can use the Countif function that does the work for us. Now I can change it. I'll go ahead and put in Brandy Turner. So let's see, Brandy Turner. Press enter. Brandy also took 2 courses. Let's see if there's another number in here. What about Bob Harvey? So Bob Harvey took 1 course. So that is the Countif. So again, what is the range? What is the criteria? Go ahead and write the Countif function and go ahead and change the employee and make sure that you get some different numbers in here and come right back. Our dashboard is looking pretty good so far. Now that we understand the concept of inputting a value and having sheets give us an output here, let's take a look at the next one here. So the next one we'll be taking a look at is the Sumif function. So in this case, we want to do 2 things. We want to search the employee column and we want to look for Omar Matthews. So here's Omar on row 14. So Omar's on row 14. Let's see where else Omar is. I could press Control F and find it. Maybe I'll do that. I'll press Control F and I'll look for Omar. So here's 1 on row 14. The other one, there's actually only 1 for Omar Matthews, so that's fine. So it's going to find Omar and it's going to summarize the amount in the cost column. So we should get $2,097.33 for Omar Matthews. We'll go ahead and change it. We know that Brandy had at least 2. So we'll go ahead and change it here as well. So it's the same concept as before. It's going to look for the range, which we already have, which is the employee range. We need the criteria, which is Omar Matthews. And we need to, what I like to call the math column. So which column do we want to summarize? We're going to be summarizing the cost column in here. All right. So let's go ahead and plug this in. So I'll use the the Sumif function here. So equals Sumif. So a conditional sum across a range, not very descriptive. I'll go ahead and press the tab key here. And you can see right here it's asking for 3 things. So what is the range? What is the criteria? And what is the sum range? So again, the sum range is going to be our math column, which is the cost column here. And the criterion, so I'll go ahead and point to these here. So the criterion is going to be Omar Matthews. And the range is going to be, it's hiding right here, but the range is going to be basically the employee column here as well. All right, so I'll go ahead and plug this in. Now, one thing that we can do is we can name the range. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to press the escape key. So we're going to be running some of these functions on the employee column, the department column, and the leadership column. So instead of having to highlight this column each time I want to run a function on it, I can actually just name it. So I'm going to name all of the actual leadership range here. So from A2 down to A51, I'm going to change this name. We did this earlier. For a single cell, we can actually name a range as well. So I'll go ahead and click on the name box here, and I'll just type program in here. Right. I'll go ahead and name the department range as well. So I'll actually call it department, press enter. I'll do the same thing here for the employee column. And then finally, I do the same thing for the cost column. So again, dashboard, it's all about getting things set up. And once everything is set up, we're just plugging in values and getting real-time updates in here as well. So for the cost, I'll type in cost and press enter. Okay. So with that done, let's see if I can rewrite my first form function here. Instead of highlighting C2 to C51, I can just simply use the employee range. So I'll go ahead and delete that. I'm going to write my Countif one more time. Oh, sorry about that. Equals Countif. And I'll go ahead and activate that. So the range is going to be the employee range. So I'll just type employee. And there it is right there. See, it's locking on to cell C2 to C51 on the functions worksheet tab. I'll go ahead and press tab to activate it. And the criteria is whatever is in cell G2. It's hiding right now. So I'll go ahead and click on G2. And there you go. So that's another way. So I did not have to highlight column C2 to C51. So that's how we can use the naming a range to be able to quickly analyze data. Go ahead and name those 4 ranges. Go ahead and rewrite your first function for the Countif and come right back. Welcome back. So we took a pause before we wrote our Sumif here to calculate the total cost for Omar Matthews, because we saw the benefit of naming a range and using that name of that particular range in a function and or a formula. So let's go ahead and calculate the total cost based on the employee. So I'll click here on cell H5, and this one we want to summarize column D if we find Omar Matthews in column C. So we'll use the Sumif function. So I'll use the equal sign here. Here's Sumif. So again, the range is the employee range. So the employee range, we're searching it. The criteria is Omar Matthews, which is in cell G5. The third part is which range do we want to summarize? We want to summarize the cost column, which is column D, which we have already named as cost, which is right here. And there you go. We can see we're getting 2,097.33, and that is correct because right here is Omar's total. So that is the Sumif. So the range, the criteria, and the column that we want to summarize. We'll go ahead and press enter, and we're good to go. Let's change this to Brandy Turner. We know that Brandy took at least 2 courses, so let's change this to Brandy Turner. Press enter, and here's the update for Brandy Turner. So good to go. So that is the Sumif function. We're going to write another Sumif here for the department. So this one is asking the question, what is the total cost if the department is Office of Information Technology? So we can see we have a few matches here for OIT. So let's go ahead and write that one here. So again, equals Sumif. The range, department, criteria, OIT, math column, column D. So We'll start off with the department. Again, here's the range. The department, according to Google Sheets, is range B2 to B51 on the functions worksheet. These names can be used on other sheet tabs rather. So they're not just available only on this functions worksheet tab here. I can use them on any other worksheet tab. I'll go ahead. So there's the department. The department I'm looking for is OIT, indicated in cell G8. And again, the math column is the cost column. So I'll type cost there. And you can see it's highlighting that column for me. So I'm good to go. I'll close my parentheses and press enter. We're already seeing the answer here. I'll press enter. So the total professional development costs for the Office of Information Technology, $15,573.78. I'll go ahead and change this to HR. Press enter. HR slightly higher, $16,462.61. So that is the Sumif. We have 3 functions down. We have 1 to go. We're going to be using the Averageif here. Now again, the function is doing the work for us. All we need to do is specify again the range, the criteria, and the math column. Google Sheets is going to perform other calculations in the background and give us the actual answer. So for this one, what were the average cost per program for the leadership program? So we'll use the Averageif in here. So this is actually going to do a few things. It's going to count how many leadership programs we had, summarize the amount, and then go ahead and divide it by the amount. So the Averageif is going to use the average and the count function to give us our actual answer. Let's go ahead and insert the Averageif. Again, we don't need to be afraid of these functions. They do the work for us. We just need to specify the, let's see, this needs to be Averageif. There we go. So again, range, criteria, and the math column. So the range is program. We did name this as program, that column. There we go. Highlighted for us. Next thing is the criteria. The program needs to be leadership. Press the comma. The range is the cost range. So COST. And there we go. So the average is $1,960.48. If I press the enter key, there is my answer. So we can see we do not have a fixed cost for the leadership program. So Randy Turner took the leadership program. The cost was $24.85. Roxanne's total was $24.52. And let's see, Pedro Frost, $22.95.98. So varying prices here for varying reasons, but either way we can get the average cost in here. So we're good to go. We have a nice little dashboard. So they are now connected because we're using a function. They connect data sets together. And as a matter of fact, we can even move this to another sheet if we want to. So this can be on, so I'll say can be on another sheet. And that's the key to having a dashboard. Well, we're good to go here. Go ahead and change the values. I'll go ahead and keep it consistent. So I'll go for Randy Turner here. Right. So there's Randy Turner, and Randy Turner is with accounting. So I'll put accounting in here. And there we go. So mission accomplished. Let's see if it's case sensitive. I'll type accounting in lowercase. Press the enter key. And we can see it's not case sensitive. So it can be uppercase or lowercase. We're good to go with the functions worksheet tab. Welcome back. Another very popular database lookup tool is called Xlookup. It's a very popular way to look up values from a data set and return values as well. Now in this case, we're not performing any math. We're not using a count. What we want to do is to input an employee number And Google Sheets is going to search a range of data and return the corresponding name, location, gross pay, and the days remaining as well. So Xlookup allows us to search a second data set and return any column from that particular record. So for example, if I put in 777 in here, I'll put in another number. So I'll click on this cell. If I type 731, we can see that it provides the name Edwin Johnson. If I put 777 and press enter, we can see Kelly Roy. So where can we find this 777 employee number? And where is this name Kelly Roy coming from? Well, right now we are using Xlookup to query the data set that's on the Formulas tab. The Formulas tab has the employee list on there with the employee numbers, the name, location, gross pay, and remaining days as well. So if I click on the formulas here, here's the employee number. So basically what Xlookup does, it's going to head on over to this worksheet tab. And once it comes here, it's going to search the employee number column. We have to let Google Sheets know where the employee number column is. And once it finds that employee number, the 777, we can return anything. The last name, the name, the location, the hire date. We can return any one of these columns and have it automatically populate the Xlookup sheet for us. So that's exactly what it does. So let's see how this works. I already have the function in here. Let's take a look at it. So Xlookup asks for three things. What is the lookup value? So in this case, the lookup value is the employee number. We can type the number in manually, but we'll continue with our theme of using an input cell for that. The second part here is basically asking us, where can we find those employee numbers? Right? So that's pretty much what it's asking. Where can we find those employee numbers? And the third part here is let's say the column data to return. There are more specific terms, but just in plain English, this is what we need to do. So number one, we have the lookup. In this case, we're looking up the employee number. Sometimes it's a name. We could look up the full name if we want to. We can look up the employee number, whatever describes that particular record. It's best when we have some type of unique number. So we're good to go, the column that we want to return. So in this case, we're looking up the value in A3. We are searching the employee numbers, which is on the Formulas Worksheet tab, range A2 to A51. And we are returning the corresponding name column, which is on the Formulas tab, B2 to B51. So I'm going to write it here for the location. So equal Xlookup. And here we go. Search key, lookup range, result range. We have some other optional ones in here like missing value, match mode, and search mode. We don't have to put these in. That's why they're in brackets. So let's set this up with the basic three. So the lookup is going to be in cell A3, which is 777. Press the comma. Now, where's the lookup range? So again, where can we find those employee numbers? I'll click on the Formulas tab. I'm going to highlight all the employee numbers. We could have named this range as well to make it faster. So 2 down, 1 to go. The third part is, well, which column do we want to return? We want to return, what do we want to return here? We want to return the location. So we'll highlight all of the locations here from C2 down to C51. I'm excluding this last record here. I added this later, so don't worry about that. And we're good to go. We can already see it's returning the location, Des Moines, Iowa. I'll go ahead and close my parentheses and press enter. And there we go. So now when we enter an employee number, 731, it gives us Edwin Johnson from Albuquerque, New Mexico. If I go back to that data set, Edwin Johnson, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So that is the Xlookup function. Go ahead and write the Xlookup for the name of the location. And we'll come back and we'll quickly write the Xlookup for the gross pay and the remaining time off as well. Let's practice a little more. Let's write 2 more Xlookup statements. And so this time this will be for the gross pay. And so the first argument here is the lookup value. I'll go back to the formulas worksheet tab here. We want to highlight the employee number column here, which is in column A. And the third part is we want to return the gross pay. So go ahead and highlight all of the gross pays. And there we go, and we're finished. Go ahead and close my parentheses. So there we go. So name, location, gross pay, and remaining time off. Let's do that one more time for the remaining time off. So equals Xlookup. Again, we could have named the employee number column. This would have prevented the scrolling here, but that's okay. And we want the days remaining here. So we'll go ahead and highlight these as well. Okay, so we're good to go. And there we go. So everything is all good. I'll go ahead and center align the text. Let's put in 777. And we can see all these values have updated. So Kelly Roy, Des Moines, Iowa. Here's the gross pay. Here's the remaining time off. Let's do a quick test. I'll lock in the location here and the remaining time off. So 777, we're looking for Des Moines, Iowa, and 15 days remaining. Here we go. Here's Des Moines, Iowa, 15 days remaining. So that is Xlookup. There are a lot of other uses for Xlookup. Other use cases is using Xlookup to automatically populate a form by grabbing the employee number and just populating the form. So this could have been a longer list here. And just by putting in the employee number on each row, we can get the corresponding name, location, gross pay, and time off. But that is the Xlookup function in its basic form. For part 4, let's start visualizing data with charts. There's different types of charts that we can use. We'll focus on really 2 structures. We have data charts. We have another tool that's called a trend line. So let's head on over to the charts worksheet tab here. And when you're working with chart data, it's usually a good idea to roll up the data and to summarize data like this. While charts can, so charts, we are able to create charts, for example, from this data set, maybe total hours by state or average pay rate by state. We can do things like that. And Google Sheets will provide us with some recommended charts, but in the end, it's a good idea to roll up your data into a chart form so that we can actually analyze the data in here as well. So to insert a chart from this data set, I can click on the Insert tab, and I can go ahead and insert a chart. And this will give me some recommended charts that I can use. Let's see what I can get here. I'll go ahead and highlight the entire data set, and I'm going to insert a chart. And here we can see it's giving us a chart. And this one, if I click over here to the right, we have 2 tabs to manage the chart. So for the chart type, maybe this one is not making sense. So this one is showing the quarters And it's kind of difficult to read this. This is like a stacked column chart. If I click on the change chart type here, I can see 4 suggested charts that I can use. So maybe I want the second one here, which is a column chart. And this one basically shows the performance rating by department. So for example, here's customer service in the first cluster. Here's the Q1 value, 2, 3, and 4. So we can see, I'll go ahead and make this chart a little bigger here. So we can see in Q4, slightly higher values than in Q1. So kind of a dip here and then an increase in Q4. Let's see if anyone has a direct increase. No, we can see an opposite trend here for HR. We can see we started high and then we went down here a little bit as well. So that's one chart that we can use. And right in here, I can go ahead and type the chart name. So I can go ahead and double click in this box here. And I can just say, let's go rating, actually performance by quarter. I'm good to go. I can go ahead and just resize this chart and I can put it over here somewhere. So that's one chart that we can use. Now I'll go ahead and close this out. I'll click on an empty cell and let's see if there's another type of chart that we can get here. I'll go ahead and highlight the data. I'll click on insert chart. Again, it wants to give me that same chart, but let's see if we can change this to another type of chart. So we do have some other recommended charts in here. So here's a bar chart that we can use. And so these are the basics. We can use a recommended chart. Google Sheets says analyze our data and it's recommending some charts for us. Or we can go ahead and change it to another chart type. For now, I'm okay with these 2 suggested charts. I'll go ahead and delete this one. And I'm okay with this one right here. So those are the basics. If you want to make any changes, we'll cover that. Go ahead and insert a suggested chart and come right back and we'll take a deeper dive into the setup and the customizations here for the chart. So we can see that Google Sheets will insert a recommended chart for us. Now, what else do we need to know about these charts? Well, the other things that we need to know is that if we want to be able to customize a chart, we can click on the top right of the chart and we can click on Edit Chart. A pane will open up on the right and we have a Setup tab and we also have a Customize tab. Now, the main things to know on the Setup tab is that you can change the type of chart that's being displayed. If you want to change the range, maybe we just want to focus on Q1 and Q2, you can specify the data range. Down here, you can specify, typically you would leave the x-axis alone, but down here you can choose which series you want to be displayed on the chart. So for example, maybe I prefer to insert a pie chart that just focuses on the Q1 numbers. So I can go ahead and do that. So this is kind of like a filter for the actual chart. The other option down here is you can add series. If you've removed them, you can go ahead and add them and we're good to go. If you click on the customize option here, a lot of this is cosmetic. So just look and feel and colors, background color, font, border color. We can make it 3D if we want to. We have chart axis and titles. So this is where we can specify the font. So if I want to center align the title, I can do that. I can make it bold. So just clicking onto these different options here is how we can kind of customize the chart here. The legend, for example, if I want to show the legend right now, it's being shown on the top. If I want to show the legend on the bottom, I can go ahead and do that. So I can move the legend around. Makes more sense. So it's not taking up the title space there as well. So as needed, we can click through these different options in here and go ahead and customize the actual chart. So what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and close this out. I'll click on a blank cell. I'm going to insert another chart here. So I'll go ahead and insert another chart. So it's giving me the stacked column chart here. Well, I already have a chart that's kind of showing all of the quarters and all of the departments as well. I just want to focus on quarter 4. So let's see if I right click on the chart. I do have series. So let's see if I can just focus on quarter 4. Oh, it doesn't really work that way. Let's see. That's interesting. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'll click on the setup here, and I'm going to remove quarter 1, 2, and 3. I just want to focus on quarter 4. Now that I have quarter 4 in here, I want to change this to a pie chart. It's best expressed as a pie chart. So I'll go ahead and choose a pie chart here. And there we go. So here's a pie chart, just kind of showcasing the data. Now, I do need to make some changes in here because right now it's showing the percentages and I don't have the legend in here. So I do want to make sure that I can get some numbers in here and have the legend to see which piece of the pie each department is. So for that, I'm going to click on the Customize tab. And I'll click on the legend. So I do want to see the legend. Right now it's auto, so it's kind of just incorporating the legend into the chart. So I'll go ahead and show the legend at the bottom. And there you go. So we can see not a lot of variation here. So it's a little bit hard to actually see which values are standing out. We can see these two over here larger than the others, but we want the numbers that's actually in here. So the legend is good to go. What about the pie slice? We can do things like move it from center. Let's see if I click on pie chart. We can put a donut hole in the middle. And let's see, for the chart style, I'll go ahead and make it 3D. Makes it a little easier to read here. All right, so let's see, what else can we do? That's the chart style. So I'm going to click on the pie slice here. Right, so we can change the color for each individual one. But where I need to go, I'll go ahead and click on pie chart. And right here for the actual label, right now we don't have any labels. So I'd like to show the actual values on the actual donut here. So I'll click here and I will click on, well, let's see, I'll choose label first. So here's the labels. I'll choose the actual value. So here's the actual value that's being displayed on there. We can change it to the percentage. Not really applicable in this scenario. We have value and percentage that shows here. So I'm going to show the actual value that's in here and I'm good to go. Now let's see, the text color is automatic. Let's see if I can make this white, make it bold, make it stand out just a little more. So just a little bit of troubleshooting so that we can kind of just change it to another type of chart. We cannot just change it to another type of chart. Charts like the pie chart that's kind of focused on one series at a time, we need to filter the chart in order for it to be able to display properly. So here we go. So I'll click on the, let's see, I'm going to go to the pie chart. Okay, so we're good to go there. I'll go ahead and center align. And this is just Q4. So this will be Q4 performance. And we're good to go. So here are our two charts. We're good to go. I'll go ahead and let's see if I can add a background color to the chart. We'll go for a black background. Let's see what that looks like. It actually looks pretty good. I just need to change the font of the labels here so I can actually read it. I'll go for a lighter color. I'll stick with that one. So those are just some of the different common options that we can tick when we're working with the actual chart. So the first one was a suggested chart. The second option here is just a customized chart by moving the data around and by clicking around on the chart pane on the right. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and create another type of chart. So this is a Sparkline. So the Sparkline is good for trend analysis. And what we want to do here is just kind of analyze to see if there's a trend in terms of employee performance from one quarter to the next. So if I were to draw a quick trend analysis here, let's say for sales, we can see that we went up in quarter two, went down just a little bit in quarter three, and down just a little bit there in quarter four as well. So we can create what's called a Sparkline, which is a small mini chart that fits in a cell that gives us a quick indicator in here. Right. So let's see, to do that, we need to use the Sparkline. So this is an actual function. So let's get the trend analysis to see how customer service is progressing from one quarter to the next. We can use the chart. We can see it here, pretty much progressing or trending upwards, but let's get a more accurate depiction. So I need to insert a Sparkline. So it's a function, not a tool. So I'll say equal Sparkline. So here's the Sparkline here. So it's a miniature chart within a single cell. I like that explanation. That's exactly what it is. So I'll go ahead and click here, and all it asks for, only asks for one thing. It's asking for where is the data that you want to analyze. We have, optionally, we have options in here as well, if we want to, but I'm good to go. I'm just going to go ahead and highlight the data, and let's see what happens. So again, give me a Sparkline from B3 to E3. I'll go ahead and press the Enter key. And here's my trend analysis. Now, I like to make the column wider and the cell taller so I can see the visual better. And there we go. So here's a visual. So we can not necessarily have to look at the data. We can just analyze the Sparkline. We can see that we're trending up. We had a big dip in quarter two relative to the rest of the quarters, but we can see that we're trending upwards here as well. So that is a Sparkline. I'm going to go ahead. Since this is a function, I can grab the fill handle and I can actually pull this down, and this will give me the options in here. So I'll go ahead and pull this down. And now we have individual Sparklines for all these options in here. So I just need to go ahead and readjust the row height so we can see those a little better. I'll actually make them all the same height. And let's see, my row height here, and resize rows. And the default is 20. I'll make this 40 and press OK. And there we go. So we can quickly see that we're trending upwards here for customer service, technology, marketing, not so much for admin, quality, HR, sales. So nice quick visuals, mini charts that fits right inside of a cell. Those are Sparklines. Now, the only other thing to mention here about Sparklines is we can change the font color, and this will actually change the color of the Sparkline that's in there. So I'll make this one orange, make this one blue, and so forth and so on. And then you can go ahead and apply a fill color. Maybe I'll put the fill color behind all of these. I'll make them all black fill. And the rest of these, I'll give another color. I'll go for purple or orange, right? So we can make those changes if we want to. But either way, those are the Sparklines. Here's our recap of Module 1. So we were able to use some text functions for cleaning up data. We're able to write some formulas. We're able to utilize common database functions to query a set of data. And we finished up by visualizing our data and telling a story with charts as well. Welcome to Module 2 of Google Sheets for HR. In Module 2, we'll take a look at table tools. So we'll learn how tables work in Google Sheets and how we can use that to our benefit to quickly analyze data. We'll also visit conditional formatting to visualize our data, another type of filter. We'll introduce data validation or creating in-cell dropdowns so that we can pick from a list of values to make the data entry process more efficient. And then we'll take a deeper dive into pivot tables when working with data sets. So let's go ahead and open up the Sheets for HR Module 2. Go ahead and click on the File tab, make a copy. And once you make a copy, then you are able to edit the copied sheet. So we're good to go. We have our worksheet tabs down here on the bottom, one worksheet tab for each of our lessons here. So go ahead and open up the Sheets for HR Module 2 and come right back. Here is my Sheets for HR Module 2. And here is the very first worksheet tab, which is Table Tools. So we do have some specific tasks that we will complete on this worksheet tab here. We're going to start off by converting this list into a table. And then we'll take a look at the sorting and filtering capabilities that the table will provide us. And then we'll take a look at the footer feature. So this footer feature here, this is Google Sheets version of Excel's total row. So we can have a row at the bottom of the data set, and that will summarize the columns for us. Okay, so if I click inside of my list, so an employee list here, employee number, name, state, hire date, pay rate, the hours worked, the gross pay, and their time off balance as well. If I scroll down, this goes down to row 53. So pretty nice data set here. You'll notice at the very bottom, I have the capability here to convert this list into a table. So I can simply just click here, and you can see as I hover over it, it's converting my list into a table for me. And it's also, if you take a look at column C, it's doing something pretty nice. It's basically creating in-cell dropdowns so that I can actually select the state, which is pretty nice. So this is an intuitive feature, really an AI feature, if you will. Let's see if I click on more options here. Okay, not much to do there. Now, if you're not getting this prompt, it's okay. What you can do is right click on your data set and you'll see the convert to table option. And for now, this is a pretty new feature, which is pretty nice. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and click here. So I can either convert it to a table or I can right click and convert it to a table. I'll use this option here since it's already prompting me. And there you go. So now I have a table. On the bottom left is telling me to keep my table headers in view. So I can freeze my header row if I want to, because once I scroll through, unlike Excel, when you scroll through an Excel table, the headers are shown in the columns here, but not so much the case for the Google Sheets table here as well. Okay, so the immediate benefits of converting our list into a table, I'll go ahead and fix these here. I want to be able to see my content over here, so I'm going to use the text wrapping. Where am I? Here we go. I'll go ahead and wrap the text. I'll make some of these columns just a little smaller so that I can see my details over there. All right. And let's see, hire date, pay rate. Okay, so that looks better. Let's see if I can move this over a little bit as well. There we go. Okay, so first one is down. We've converted it to a table. Now we can see we have at the very top here, we have the table menu. If I click here, so I can rename the table. I can expand the range. I can change the color of the table if I want to, at least the header. So I'll go for a different color here that I can use. So several colors available. I'll go for this one. So we can change the table header color. We have the, let's go ahead and rename the table. So I'll go ahead and click on the table here. And I'm just going to call this one Payroll. So why would I want to name this table? Well, one of the benefits of naming a table is that you can refer to a table by name. So for example, if I wanted to summarize the gross pay column, I can use the name of the table, Payroll, and the name of the column, which is gross pay. And so the table automatically names these ranges for us. So if I want to refer to the hours worked on this will be the payroll table followed by the hours column. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. But for now, so we're able to rename the table. We can change the table color in terms of the header row there. And for the table formatting, I can show the grid lines. I can show the condensed view. And down here, we can show the table footer as well. We'll take a look at that a little later. Right now, we're just kind of exploring the options here. If I want to convert this back to a list, I can choose revert to unformatted data. If I want to delete the table, I can go ahead and press the delete table command here. So let's see what happens if I revert to the unformatted data. So we can see it just converts it back to a list. I'll go ahead and undo that. And let's see if I delete the table, it's just gone. So all the data is gone there. So some nice tools that we can use. There's another tool right here. Looks like a calendar or a calculator. It's views. If I click here, what I can do is I can create a group by view. So let's say if I want to group the data by state, I can go ahead and do that. So let's click here and see what happens. And this is pretty cool. So you can see it's grouping the data, not so much filtering, but this is grouping. So here's the information for California. So here are all of my employees from California, and here's the data. So that's pretty cool. Iowa, Idaho, Louisiana. So that's a really, really nice feature that we can use. Don't really have that in some of the other spreadsheet applications. All right, I'll go ahead and let's see. I'll go ahead and exit that view. And I don't want to save that. So you can actually save the view if you want to, kind of toggle back and forth between them, which is pretty cool. So those are the basics here. The other benefits of working with the table is if I were to click on the drop down here for the column, so I can change the type of column. So what type of data is being collected in these cells. For example, the hire date, these are dates. We can see it's already showing that it's dates in here. For the gross pay, let's see if this is using currency. We can change this to currency. So I'll go ahead and change the gross pay to currency. So it changes the entire column, not just one cell. So that's a really nice feature. You don't have to highlight the entire, we can just change it right here as well. So that looks pretty good. The pay rate, I'll go ahead and convert this as well to currency. There we go. And we're good to go. So those are the basics here. We can sort by column as well, and we can filter. So we'll sort and filter when we come back, but go ahead and convert your list into a table. Go ahead and name the table. Go ahead and apply some of the different formatting options here to the table as well. And go ahead and apply the currency format for the pay rate and the gross pay column. Let's go ahead and perform some sorting and filtering. So I want to go ahead and sort this list by the employee number. So I can click here and I can sort A to Z. Now this is a really nice feature. I'm a big fan of sorting using filters. Typically when you sort, it moves the header as well. So it's a little frustrating. So I always like to use filters to be able to sort. So if I click on the drop down here for the employee number, here is the sort. I want to sort A to Z. And let's see if the entire record is going to move for each of our employees here. So I'll click on sort column. And you can see the entire record moves. So we're not just sorting the employee number column. We are arranging the data by that column. but the entire record is moving there as well. So pretty nice. All right, let's check out another. So there's different types of sorting. We have sort by numbers, we have sort by name. So I can sort by here if I want to. So if I want to sort by, it would have been good if we had the last name in one column, but either way, we can sort by the first name. So here's Antonia Moore. We can sort by state. So pretty much any column we can go ahead and sort by. Sorting is a great way just to organize your data. Gives you a chance to just focus on different parts of your data at one time. We saw the grouping here though would be a better option if we were to actually group this column. Now we have different options here available for dates as well. So if I click here, I can go ahead and sort either A to Z. So we can see Diane Dillon was our first hire, September of 2014. And if I sort Z to A, our most recent hire was the guy Mo Jones, May 4th of 2024. Right. So pretty cool. So those are the different ways that we can sort data just by using those filters that the table provided for us. Now we can sort one column at a time, but what if I want to be able to sort by several columns, right? So let's say I want to sort by state and then maybe by hours worked as well. So if I click on the data tab here, I do have the sort command. So this will sort based on the column that I have selected, but I don't want the regular sort. I want to be able to sort by multiple columns. Notice the sort range option here is not selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control A to select all the data in my table here. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on Data. And we can see the sort range is active now. And now I have the advanced range sorting options. So I'll go ahead and click here. And so it wants to sort A2 to H53. I'll go ahead and choose this option here. And you can see it's already showing us the columns here that I can sort by. So I do want to go ahead and sort, move this out of the way. So I'll go ahead and sort by state. That's going to be A to Z. And then now I can add another sort column. So the second column is, I'll go ahead and put in the hours. So the hours worked. And this one will be from top to bottom. So that's how we can use the advanced sort. Once I click on sort here, we can see it's sorted by state. We'll focus on California here. So here's California. And let's see the hours. We can see the hours are in descending order. Right? So we're going from 40 for Carl Howard down to 22 for Bob Harvey. So that's how we can perform just simple sorting using the filters, or for the advanced sort, we need to select the entire data set so that we can have access to the sort range command. So go ahead and sort your data and come right back. We'll take a look at filtering. Another great benefit of converting your list into a table is the use of filters. So if I go ahead and click on the filter here for the name, so this is more than a filter, this is a drop down. We have other options in here that we can use, but right here I do want to be able to filter the actual column. So there's a filter kind of hidden behind this drop down here. So I'll click on filter column, and just like in Excel, you can sort the column. So the part of the filter is being able to sort. Down here, we have filter by condition. So if I want to enter a condition, if I'm looking for an exact match or text that contains, a lot of date filters in here, number filters. So there's filters for each type of data that we're working with. We have filter by values. So if I want to filter by a value, I can select all 51. So right now, all 51 are being displayed. So I can select all 51 if I want to, or I can decide to go ahead and clear everyone. Maybe I just want to focus on Antonia Moore, Bill Crane, and Brandy Turner. I can also search. So let's see, I'll go ahead and search for, right, so Sherry Kennedy comes up. So enter the entire phrase or a part of the phrase and it displays for you. Right, so I can do that. So I can do that if I want to. I'm going to go ahead and clear this. I'll go ahead and remove. So I'll go ahead and clear. So it works a little differently from the filtering in Excel. So I'll go ahead and clear everything and just select the options that I want. So I'll go for these three options here, and I'll go ahead and press OK. And there you go. So there's the filter. So here are the 3 records that I can go ahead and focus on. Let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and clear the filter. So I'll click back. I can see the filter is active now. It's showing up right here. So I can go ahead and clear the actual filter. So I'll click here to clear it. And to clear it, I'll just go ahead and select all and then press OK. And this puts back my 51 records here. Let's filter by state. So I'll go ahead and click on so notice now that I'm filtering the table, the drop down here is changed to the actual filter. So let's see, I'll go ahead and click here and I want to filter by state. So I'll go ahead and clear everything. So I can either uncheck or I'll just go ahead and clear and I'll choose California. And I'll also choose, let's see. So California and Texas. I'll go ahead and press OK. And there you go. So here we've filtered the data to display those 2 states. And now I can go ahead and sort if I want to, but I'm good to go so far. Right. Now we can run multiple filters on a data set. So right now I'm filtering just for California and Texas. Maybe I just want to focus on my, let's see, my full-timers here. So if you're working 30 hours or more, we'll focus on full-time. So I'll go ahead and click here on the hours. And I'm going to use I want to filter by condition. So for the condition here is, I want to say greater than or equal to 30. So notice there's a lot in here. Greater than, so numbers, we have dates, and we can even add a custom formula in there. So if it's greater than or equal to 30, I'll go ahead and press OK. And we can see we now have a smaller set of data. Right? So here are the 8 records. So keep an eye on your status bar. Lets you know as soon as you run the filter, lets you know how many records have been returned for you. So here are 8 records. So again, we can filter by, unlike the sort, we can filter on multiple columns as well. So we're filtering for 2 states, and here are the hours. Only full-time staff. I can change this if I want to. If I want to focus on part-time staff, I can say less than 30. Press OK. And here's our part-time staff. So pretty cool way to be able to filter our data. I'll go ahead and reset my filter here. So I'll go ahead and let's see, I'll click on filter values. I'll go into clear, select all. Actually, I'm going to turn off the logical filter here. And I'll go ahead and select all. Press OK. I'll go ahead and do the same. I'm going to clear and select all. Right, so this puts me back to my 51 records. Let's check out the date filters. So I'll click on the hire date here. And we don't get the date hierarchy in here. It's not breaking it down to years and months for us, and that's okay. I'll click on the filter by condition. And let's say I just want to focus on, let's see. So we have date is before, and we have date is after. So let's see how many hires did we have before. Not today, but let's put in an actual value in here. Put an exact date. So how many hires did we have before, let's say 2015? Right. So 2015. So I'll go ahead and put the actual date in here I'm looking for. So I'll put January 1st of 2015. So 1/1/2015. Let's see if that works. I'll go ahead and press OK. And so here are our 2 hires before 2015. So we had 2 hires before 2015. So those are just different ways to be able to filter our data. Let's go ahead and summarize our table data with the table footer. Now I want to go ahead and clear my filters in here. Now if I want to clear all the filters on my table, I can click on my table and click on the data tab, and here is the remove filter command. So this will actually clear. So it's a little misleading. This basically clears the filters. It does not delete the filters. We will still be able to filter after we click on that button there. So I'll go ahead and click on remove filter. And this should reset my table back to my 51 records. And there we go. So here are my 51 records. I'm good to go. I'm going to freeze row 2 so I can always see my headers. So I'm going to click on the view tab here, and I want to freeze up to row 2. So this way, as I scroll through, I can always see my headers in here. Right. Let's take a look at the behavior of the table as well. So if I want to, for example, add another column or a row or another record, I can do so. Once I move to that last column, I will see a button appear here, this little plus sign. That allows me to add another table column to the right. So if I want to add another column in there, maybe for the performance rating, I can go ahead and do that. In similar fashion, as I navigate through the different rows, I can see a small plus sign here as well. So I can insert a row into the table as a record. So I'll go ahead and do that. I can either add another record on row 54. And so if I go ahead, I'm going to sort this column by the employee number. Okay, so the next number in the sequence is 1002. So if I want to add another record, so this is a table, it's going to behave like a small database file. So if I press the tab key, you can see it's creating the space for that record. It keeps the formatting from above, and I can go ahead and enter the information in here. Now the table did convert my state column into drop-downs for me, so I can go ahead and just choose a particular state. So I'll go ahead and add another record here. And I'll go ahead and put a date in here. So we can see the formatting stays consistent. And we can see the gross pay column is automatically calculated. That's the benefit of the table. So this is behaving like a small database. And here you go. So here's 20. So there's my record. The table automatically expands. And again, I can either add a new record at the end of the data set, or I can go ahead and insert a row. And we can see it's just expanding the table for us for that entry. I'll go ahead and undo that. So the table automatically expands, and we can manage rows and columns and records here as well. So let's talk about summarizing columns here. So I may want to do something like summarize the time off balance. So how much time off do we still have? What are the total? Now, because we named the table, we can refer to the table by name. So we can refer to the table by name, and we can also refer to the table by column. So instead of highlighting, the data and summarizing it, I can use the sum function and just tell Google Sheets I want to summarize the time off balance column on the payroll table. So let's see how that works. I'll put a little placeholder here for total time off. So I'm going to insert the sum function. So equal sign, I'll type the sum function. I'll press tab to activate it. And now instead of highlighting, what I can do is just type the name of the table. So the name of the table is Payroll. And we can see Payroll shows up here. And not just the table, but it's also showing me the columns in here. So if I want to summarize the gross pay column, I can do that. But I want to summarize the time off balance. So I'll go ahead and just press tab to activate this, or I'll click on it actually. And it's already calculating it for me. You can see it's 555. I'll close my parentheses. So you can see this has two parts. Here's the name of the table, which is payroll. And here's the name of the column, which is time off balance. So really, really nice. And I'm good to go. There's also another tool that allows us to summarize to perform math on the different columns. If I right click on the table, I want to go ahead and insert a table footer. Again, this is another misleading type of name. This really, best way to kind of, describe this is that this is a summary row. It's going to automatically calculate those different columns that has numbers assigned to it. So let's see what that looks like. I'll go ahead and click on Insert Table Footer. And if I go down to the bottom here, I can see on that last row, it's giving us the sum of the time off balance. It's the same formula that we just wrote, sum of the time off balance column in the payroll table. We can see it's doing the same thing here for the gross pay, for the hours, and the pay rate as well. Now the pay rate, the sum of the pay rate doesn't really make sense. So what I can do is change this to the average. So I'll delete the sum in here and I'll just type the average function. And we can see it's going to result in $30.60. I'll go ahead and press enter. And there we go. So a really nice way. So just inserting that footer is a nice way to just go ahead and summarize or perform math on the different columns as well. You could set this up on your own. Unlike in Excel, we don't have a drop down where we can actually insert the function in here. We have to manually type the function in the formula bar. But we are good to go. So we just finished part 5 using table tools to quickly analyze data. Let's take a look at part 6, where we'll cover conditional formatting for visual analysis. I'll go back to my Google Sheet here, and I'm on the second worksheet tab that is conditional formatting. And on here, we want to visualize columns based on conditions. So when it comes to conditional formatting, it's really another type of filter, right? So we select the range that we want to filter, but instead of hiding and or revealing data that's relevant or not relevant to our filter or our condition, we can simply leave all the data, make all the data visible, but we can format, for example, change the fill color or change the color of the text just to highlight what we're looking for. So I'll go ahead and I'll select all of the time off balance column here. I'll go ahead and convert this to a table. Might as well. So here's our table now. I'll go ahead and select all of the time off balance column. And what I can do is click on the Format tab. And under Format, I have Conditional Formatting. So I'll go ahead and click on Conditional Formatting. I'll move this over a little bit here. So here's the Conditional Format Rules dialog. So we have two options to highlight the values that we're looking for. We have a single color based on a condition, or we can have a color scale. So you can see the color scale. We have kind of the default color scale in here. The darker green represents the higher values, whereas the white represents the smaller values in here. So it's a great way just to kind of quickly take a look at your data. We can see, for example, on row 8, that this value is standing out in terms of time off balance. And as we scroll down, we can see the lower values, such as on row 51, there's only 2 available there as well. So we have color scales that we can use. We can even change the colors if we want to. If you want additional colors, you can do that. Or you can choose from in another existing. Typically, this is what I do. These are already built in. So red, white, and green. This is my favorite one. The green represents the higher values. The red represents the smaller values as well. But what if I want a single color? So what if I want to just go based on a condition? So I'd like to be alerted once the employee's balance falls below, let's say below 10. Right? So a single color, I want it to be, I'll go for a reddish color here, not too red, maybe this light red berry. So the condition here, I have to specify my rule or my condition. So if I click on the drop down here, so these are text, the next section here, these are dates, and then down here we have some numbers. So if it's less than 10, you can see it's only highlighting those cells that meets this condition. That looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and press done. I'll make it italicized and bold as well, just to make it stand out more. And I'll go ahead and press done. So we can see that we now have a rule, and I can go ahead and add another rule if I want to. But now if I'm just kind of scrolling through this data, I can quickly see which ones are standing out, right? So these first 3 here, the balances are running low. We need to notify them. Okay, your balances are running low. You have another 3 months, so just use them wisely. Or we may say, if we want another rule to highlight the high ones here, for example, we have Bob Harvey. We can say, Bob, you have a lot of time off left. You only have 3 months. You may want to start using your time off in there as well. All right, let's create another one. We can also, let's say I just want to create a conditional format for the, let's say the gross pay. We'll just go to the next column here. For this one, I'll just go ahead and I'll go ahead and add another rule. And for this one, I'll use a color scale. And I'll use the red to white to green color scale here. And that's it. I'll go ahead and click done. And now I have 2 quick ways to filter my data or conditionally format my data based on a specific condition as well. Well, let's see if I have any here for dates. I'll go ahead and select my date column and I'll click on the format tab. I'll use conditional formatting. And let's see. Okay, don't really want that. We want, I'll go for a single color. And for this one, if the date is, let's say before, let's say after. So if the date is after, and I can put in the date in here. So I want an exact date, and I'll go ahead and put the date in here. So if it's after 12/31, 2018, we can see it's already highlighting the values for us. Right? And I'll go ahead and use another color. I'll go for orange in here. No, too orange. Subtle orange. I'll go ahead and press done. And there we go. So conditional formatting, we have a lot of built-in rules that works right out of the box, whether it's a color scale or a condition for dates, text, or numbers. For more advanced opportunities, we can also create our own rule, right, based on a formula that we can use to set up our own logic as well. But that is conditional formatting. Again, take advantage of the built-in rules and logic to quickly analyze your data. If you want to manage the conditional formatting, you can click on the Format tab and click on Conditional Formatting. And we can see the different rules that are in here. And then we can simply go ahead and manage the rules by simply deleting them as well. My apologies, I actually clicked on a blank cell. So click on the cell that actually has the conditional formatting. And once you click on conditional formatting, here is the rule. So we can go ahead and delete that if we want to delete that. Now I can click on the gross pay column. Here's the color scale. And then here is the time off. So we can always go ahead and remove the rule. Or if we click on it, we can go ahead and modify the rule as well. Good to go. In part 7, we will take a look at how we can include in-cell dropdowns for valid data entry. So we'll be able to select from a list of choices and to prevent any other type of data from being entered in those cells. I'm back to my Google Sheets here. I'm on the Worksheet tab for in-cell dropdowns. So we're tracking the employee turnover metrics on a monthly basis. So you can see that in January, we had 10 employees that left, and we're recording the turnover rate percentage. And we're also tracking the top reasons for turnover. Right? And then over here, based on the top reasons for turnover, we can make some recommendations for retention strategies. Right? So for example, if we had relocation, maybe flexible hours, if we're losing employees looking for better opportunities, we can provide training workshops and so forth and so on. So what we want to do as this list continues to grow, we want to simplify the process. So right now you can see we have several unique options in here. Let's see if I can use the unique function. Let's see what unique options are in here. Great. So we can see we have several in here. We have 11 unique reasons out of 12. So we want to roll all this up into 4 categories. Right? So here's our list over here on the right. So we want to simplify the process, and whoever's filling out this form, we want them to be able to choose, at their discretion, which one of these reasons best fits. So better opportunities, family relocation, career change, or personal growth. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete the data that's in here. We'll start from scratch. And I'm going to highlight the cells that I want to place those in-cell dropdowns. Now I can click on the Insert tab, and here is the dropdown. So I'll go ahead and click on Dropdowns. It opens a pane over here to the right. I'm going to move over just a little bit here so we can see my list. So option 1 here is I can type the values in here manually. Right? So I can type better opportunities in here, family relocation, career change, and personal growth. We can change the colors as well, which will make it look really nice. So that's option 1. But the common practice is to just write your list ahead of time and refer to that list as the driver for the drop-down items. So for the criteria, if I click here, I want to use that second option. So instead of typing the values in here manually, I want to choose from a range. So here's the drop down from a range. And now what this allows me to do, if I click on select data range, I can highlight my list. And if I go ahead and press OK, you can see it's already created those for me, and I'm good to go. So I'll go ahead and just change the colors here. I'll apply a color for each of these, which is a pretty nice touch as well. And that's it. If I click on advanced options, the other thing to know in here is that when data is being entered in that cell, we have 2 options. We can either reject the input unless they have chosen an option from the list. So basically you cannot type a value in there manually. You're going to be rejected. The other option is just to say, please choose from the list of options, but we will allow a warning. But I don't want this option, so we're just going to go ahead and reject the input. Down here on the bottom, we have different display styles. Right now, we're using the chip. We can see the rounded rectangle in here. If you prefer the arrow, here's the arrow for the drop down. Or if you just want plain text, you can go ahead and use that as well. I'll go for the chip, and I'll go ahead and press done here. So now, whoever's filling out this form, they have a list of options to choose from. So I'll just fill out a few of these. Right. So we're good to go. Let's see, I'll try to enter a value in here. I'll put retirement. So we can see it does not allow that. The data you entered in cell E8 violates the data validation rules set on this cell. So we're actually performing or accomplishing two things in here. One, we have the, so we can choose from a drop down, and we can validate the actual data that's being entered in that cell. So great thing to do. I'll go ahead and press OK, and I'm good to go. So that's how we can set up in-cell dropdowns for a data set. Go ahead and set up your in-cell dropdowns for these cells and come right back. We'll take a deeper dive into in-cell dropdowns. Welcome back. Well, there's a few more things we want to address. So how can we edit an existing in-cell dropdown? How can we expand that as well? So let's take a look at how we can go ahead and do that. The first part here, if you want to expand it, what I can do is just click on, just head on over to a cell that has the in-cell dropdown, and I can use the fill handle here, and I can drag it down. So that's one way that we can expand it. Right. The other way is I can edit and expand by pulling back up the pane on the right. Now, if we take a look here, we do want to add another choice in here. The other choice we want to add is retirement. So right now we have better opportunities, family relocation, career change, and personal growth. Well, I would like to add another one here. So I'll go ahead and add to the list, and I'll type retirement and press enter, and I'll just make it look the same like the rest here. Okay, so I'll go ahead and click on the first one here. And once I click there on the bottom, we have the edit button. So I can edit, and let's see what happens. This is going to open up the pane on the right, and this will allow me to modify the in-cell dropdown options. So I'll go ahead and click here, and here we go. So we can see right now, so I can expand the range right here if I want to. So we can see it's, so here is the E4, right? Actually, no, I'll only have one cell selected. So let's focus on the actual data range. So here it is. So I4 to I7. So what I can do is I can either just change this number here to row 8 to include the retirement, or I can just go ahead and reselect again. I'll just expand it to row 8. And then I'll go ahead and press done. And what's really nice is it's asking me if I want to expand it to the rest, to all of the in-cell dropdowns, or just this instance. I do want to apply it to all, so I'll go ahead and click on apply to all. And there we go. We can see it's been expanded. So they now all include the retirement option. So I can go ahead and put retirement in here, and I am good to go. So mission accomplished. If you want to remove data validation, well, let's see. I can delete the entire row, but let's see if I can select all three. So if I select all three, let's see, under the clear formatting, let's see if that will work. I don't believe it's going to work. It doesn't. still in there. So what I would have to do, I can click here and just change the range. So if I do not want to include 16 to 19, I can just change this to 15 and press done. So we can see that removes it there. I could also have just deleted those rows, and that would have removed the in-cell dropdowns in there for there as well. So pretty good. Right, so go ahead and edit the existing. So go ahead and expand the list and go ahead and edit the in-cell dropdowns here. Click on the edit button here. When the pane opens on the right, go ahead and include the retirement here as a part of the list. If you want to, go ahead and provide some in-cell dropdowns for column F as well. As a matter of fact, I'll just take maybe the top 5 in here. Put this over here. And I'll go ahead and insert some dropdowns for that as well. And you can see which was actually pretty cool. It's converting these to in-cell dropdowns. So I did not have to actually export the list. I'm just going to choose which ones I want to keep or which ones I want to remove. So I'll go ahead and just remove some of these. And actually it's fine to keep all of them. I'll go ahead and press done. I can change the colors in here if I want to, but I'll go ahead and press done. And we're good to go, right? So that's a nice feature. It actually created the unique values for us that we can convert to in-cell dropdowns. So pretty nice. For part 8, we'll take a look at how we can utilize pivot tables for data analysis. Pivot tables will help us to roll up data and aggregate the different columns and present the data to us in a condensed form. I'll go back to my Google Sheets here, and on the 4th worksheet tab here, which is for pivot tables. Now, to get started, we'll create a few pivot tables. If we take a look at our data set, we may want to create a report that shows the length of service by state. Maybe also the hours worked by state. And then we'll see how we can rig up a pivot table to display several pieces of information, such as the number of employees plus the total gross pay by state as well. The great thing about pivot tables is it's going to analyze our data and it's going to provide us with some suggestions. So we have a few capabilities here to analyze our data with suggestions, or we can go ahead and customize our own pivot tables as well. So if you've never saw a pivot table before or worked with a pivot table is a nice way of condensing the data into a single table that helps us to answer a lot of different questions. For example, this data set, we go down to row 52, and we can see we're capturing the first name, last name, the state, their department, the length of service in years. Let me go ahead and fix this. And the pay rate and the hours as well. So we can create different reports on here based on the state, based on the department. And in terms of capturing values, we have length of service, the pay rate, and the hours in here that we can capture as well. We can also determine, using the employee numbers, we can count the amount of employees that we have by state and or by department. So there's a lot of opportunities to aggregate the data here as well. So if you were asked to create or showcase the length of service by state, we would need to kind of move things around. We can do some sorting, we can do some filtering, but we'd find ourselves just kind of working through this entire data set over and over. So instead of doing that, if we can have a nice condensed table that just shows us our data, we can have some totals on the right, some totals on the bottom. And maybe this is, let's see, maybe this is by department. So we can have our departments up here. And then the states down here. Right. And then we can go ahead and figure out, well, how many employees do we have by department and by state? So we can do that. To do that, we'll click inside of the data set here. Now I am going to convert this to a table, so I'll use the convert to table command here. And we're good to go. And I'm okay with that. So I'll go ahead and click on the insert tab, and I want to go ahead and insert a pivot table. Now, the first thing it asks me is, well, where is the data for your pivot table? We can see right here, it's table 2. We could rename this if we want to. And where do we want to place the new pivot table? On an existing sheet or on a new sheet? I'll use the existing sheet, and I'll just put it over here so I can see it somewhere over here on this sheet. It's not going to be a large table, so I do have a little bit of room in here. So I'll choose existing sheet, and I'll click on the select data range, and I want to put this pivot table right here. I'll go ahead and press OK, and then I'll go ahead and click on create, and let's see what the pivot table offers us here. So we have two options. We can use one of these suggested pivot tables here. So we have 3. So sum of hours for each department, average of pay rate by department, and the count of employees for each department as well. So these are all related to the actual department. So that's option 1. The other option is we can build. So here are all the different fields over here. So we can actually go ahead and build our pivot table. For example, if we want to showcase the amount of hours, we can add that to the values here. So this is really option 2. But let's just use these suggested pivot tables first so we can see how it's aggregating and presenting the data. So I do want to figure out the, let's see, sum of hours for each department. So I'll go ahead and choose this one. And here you go. So we can see it's condensing the information for us. Just a small pivot table here. So the grand total of hours is 1,503. So again, the pivot table is doing the math for us. We do not need to write any formulas. It's already summarizing the sum of hours for the accounting department. So if we were to filter this table for just accounting and we summarize the hours column, we would get that 289. But we don't have to do that. The pivot table is doing that for us. So that is pretty cool. All right, I'll go ahead and click on, let's see if I can insert another one here. What about the average of pay rate for each department? Okay, so that overwrites the existing one. So I'm going to go back to this one here. Actually, that's fine. We can see them right here. So here's the average pay rate for each department. So if we just really stop and think and really appreciate what the pivot table is doing here, it's using a lot of functions in the background, right? So average if, count if, sum, so a lot of options in there. This one is unique. This one shows the number of employees for each department. So this one is using the count function to count the amount of employee IDs by department. So that is pretty cool. I'll stick to the first one here, sum of hours for each department. I'll go ahead and close my pivot table editor over here on the right. If you want to insert another pivot table, you can click back on the pivot table, click on the insert tab again, and click on pivot table. Again, existing sheet. I'll put this one right here and press OK. Press create. And this one, I do want the count here as well. So very good. So the main thing to know, if we take a look at these two different tables, is basically displaying the department in the rows. So here's the department in the rows. And it's showing, in terms of the value, it's showing the hours in the columns. So here's the sum of the hours in the columns as well. We can change this if we want to. I can click on this cell and I'll just say total hours. We're good to go. Now, the main thing to note is that it's summarizing the hours here. So notice it's using the sum function. We can change this. If we want to count, we can do that. Or if we want to find the average, we can do that as well. If I click on the second one here that's showing the count of employees by department, we can see now it's using the count function. So the employee number has been inserted into the values. We're displaying the department in the rows. So this is counting the employee IDs. If I change this to sum, it does not make sense, right? It's summarizing the employee numbers. We don't want that. We want to count the amount of employee numbers that are in there. And so this is our answer. And I'll call this employees. Press enter. And we're good to go. So pretty nice. So we can get some nice suggested pivot tables. Go ahead and insert your pivot tables. Go ahead and insert all three if you want to, and come right back and we'll create a custom pivot table. Welcome back. Well, hopefully you were able to insert a few suggested pivot tables here. Now, pivot tables are my favorite way for analyzing data. I'm going to insert a few more, and let's focus on these three here. So I'll go ahead and click on my table. I'm going to click on the Insert tab, and I want to insert a pivot table. So I'll click here. And I do want this on, well, let's go to a new sheet. Let's see what that experience looks like. I'll go ahead and click on Create. So this creates a new sheet for me. It's called Pivot Table 1. And here's the data in here, right? So we do want to create length of service by state. So I want to capture the length of service. So I'll go ahead and drag the length of service to the values area. So I can put it in the rows, the columns, the values of the filters. I'll go ahead and place it in the values. And it's giving us the sum, which is 321.5 years. Right? So second part, I do want the by state. So I'll drag the state into the rows. And there you go. So we can see it's calculating for us the sum, right? So really experience. So we can see in California, we have a total length of service of 59.8. But maybe the average will tell a better story here, right? Because we can see we have a lot of experience. This number is higher because we have more employees in California. But what about the average length of service? So let's change this. So if you want to change the way the math is being performed in that column, right here, we can change this from the sum to the average. So I'll go ahead and choose average here. And let's see if this tells a different story. Okay, so we can see it's telling a different story here. While California has the most experience, we can see that right here in North Dakota, we can see this number is higher at 9.4. And also in Nevada, we have 8.8. So the average employee in North Dakota has been with us for 9.4 years. In Nevada, 8.8 years. In California, only 6 years there as well. And then we have Louisiana, which is at 1.9. So really nice in here. So I'll change this to average. I'll just say average LOS. And press enter. And there we go. Right, so pretty nice. Let's see if I can center align all of this data. We'll come over here and, right, so we can do that. And let's see, go ahead and bold that top row and that first column. That looks a lot better. All right, there we go. I'll make this by year. Okay, very good. All right, so mission accomplished. Average length of service by year based on state. The second one is hours worked by state. So I'll go ahead and insert another pivot table. And I'll put this on that same sheet as well. So I'll go ahead and select the sheet. And I'll put this one down here. Press OK. Press create. Here is the shell now for my pivot table. So this one is hours worked by state. So the hours worked is going to be the value, and the state is going to be in the rows. Now, when you're building a table, you can place the field in the rows or the columns. If I put it in the columns, this is what it looks like. Typically, when you have a lot of values, you don't want to put it in the columns because it kind of extends beyond the actual sheet. So it's up to you whether you want to place it in the rows or in the columns. I'll put it in the rows. That looks a little better here as well. So here are the total hours for each state. So there we go, mission accomplished. Let's do another one here. So this one is a combination. We have the number of employees plus gross pay by state. So employees and gross pay by state. I'll go ahead and insert another pivot table here. This will be on an existing sheet. There we go. All right, so number of employees. So the employee number will go to the values. We want to track the state in the row. Okay. We want to count the amount of employees. So we'll change the sum to the count function. So here is the number of employees by state. And we will also want to capture the total gross pay. So we're going to have two fields in the values. So let's see. I'll go ahead and grab the, where is my, do I have the gross pay in here? Don't have the gross pay. Okay, that's fine. So I'll go ahead and insert the gross pay in here. So this will be gross pay. Now, because this is a table, let's see if the pivot table will update automatically here. So for the gross pay, I'll go ahead and multiply the rate times the hours. Press enter. There we go. Going to make this a currency column. We're good to go. All right, so let's go back to the pivot table, and we can see the gross pay is showing up here. That's the benefit of working with the table. All right, let's see what happens when we place two fields in the values. Okay, so here we go, mission accomplished. We can see the number of employees for, let's choose Texas here. So 6 employees in Texas, the gross pay per week, $5,602.27. Right, so that's the total. Again, I can change this to the average if I want to. We can see slightly higher in Nevada and Arizona. All right. Let's see, I'm going to add another record, or maybe I'll update an existing record. We only have one for Arizona and for New Mexico. So I'll go ahead and convert a few more to Arizona, and let's see what happens. Right. But before we do that, go ahead and insert these 3 tables. And when we come back, we'll change or update the data source. And let's see if the pivot table will update for us when we do that. Welcome back. Well, we have a few pivot tables in here. We have 3 on this worksheet. We have another 2. You may have 3 in here as well. And I'm going to make some changes here. So let's focus on this pivot table that shows 1 employee for Arizona. So I'll go back to the pivot table here, and I'm just going to convert a few of my other ones in here to Arizona. So I'll change this one to Arizona, and I'll change this one to Arizona. So we should have 3 now. So let's go back to our pivot table and let's see what happens here. And look at that, we can see it's updated automatically. So we can see the increase here. We have 3 for the state of Arizona. And any other pivot tables that was kind of capturing data by state, all of these pivot tables would have been updated as well, right? So 4.7 average length of service for Arizona, and the sum of hours 102. And now we have 3 employees with the average gross pay of 1091.61. Well, what if I add a record? So I'll go ahead and add a record in here. And let's see, are we sorted? Yep, we're sorted here. So I'll add one more record, 799. And I'll go ahead and add Jim Cohen. I'm sorry. Let's see, is this the last name? I should have frozen the headers. Okay, so that's the first name. So this is going to be Jim, and I'll put Cohen. And I'll go for, let's go for Arizona as well. So Arizona, marketing. Okay. So here we go. And okay, the length of service is a calculation. So I'll put an earlier date. I'll go ahead and put 4/1. We get a 1/10 of a year here, 1 month. That's fine. The pay rate, I'll go ahead and put that in, 35. And the hours, I'll put 40 in there. All right, so we have a new record in here. Let's see if the pivot table is going to update for us. So I'll go ahead and go back here. Pivot table 1. We can see it's updated. So whether you modify an existing record or add a record, the pivot table updates automatically, which is pretty nice. We don't need to refresh it. So that is really a really nice benefit. In other software platforms, you have to refresh the table to show the new data. So we are good to go. When working with pivot tables, the next natural thing to do is to filter the pivot table. So once I click on the pivot table on the bottom left here, I can click on the edit button, and this opens up the pane on the right. And this will allow me to filter. So I can introduce a field into the filter. So let's say I want to filter by department. I'll go ahead and drag the department filter in here. And now what I can do, if I just want to focus, let's say on, I'll clear all, just accounting. I'll go ahead and press OK. So we can see all these numbers have been updated, right? So this reflects only for the accounting department. So pretty cool. If I want to focus on accounting and HR, I can go ahead and select that. So it only applies to this particular pivot table, not the others. Each pivot table will have their own individual filtering capabilities that we can use. When you're working with the pivot table as well, we can increase it. So for example, I'll click on my state pivot table here. So sum of hours by state. What if I want to capture the sum of hours by state and by department? I can go ahead and add the department in the column. So I'll drag the department here. Right. So now we have the departments in the columns and we have the state in the rows. So this is another view, and we can see it's a lot of summaries in here. So lots of calculations in here. Right. So lots of calculations. We have 57 calculations. So the pivot table is just answering questions for us. Whenever you drag a field to one of these different areas, you're asking different questions. So what are the sum of hours by department and by state? So we are good to go. So that's the benefit of working with pivot tables. Again, the suggested pivot tables are a really great option to kind of start. And if you want, we now have the capability to create custom pivot tables as well. Here's our recap of Module 2. We worked with tables. We applied conditional formatting. We were able to provide in-cell dropdowns for data validation. We previewed some suggested pivot tables, and we learned how to create custom pivot tables as well. So hopefully this course was useful for you. Go ahead and enjoy Google Sheets for your HR experience.